I had the ingredients ready, a bottle of codeine, some cough mixture right next to my bedside, and I was ready to take my life.
This is Francisca Mandeya, and the message that informs her entrepreneurial work is from your pain to your prosperity. From the books that she has authored to the coaching business that she is running, Francisca has mastered the skill of turning pain into gain, gifts, and prosperity, both for herself and her clients.
We are going to experience pain, whether it be from divorce, whether it be physical pain, from relationships, it really doesn't matter. Pain is inevitable. What matters is what you are going to do with that pain, because it's going to be there. So when it comes to pain, if you're experiencing it, no matter where it's coming from, you can ask yourself, what is the gift from pain? What is the opportunity? When you do that, now you are able to move from the rock bottom, from your hand being on the stove, to a mindset where you are riding on that pain and beginning to create gifts.
I recently took the time to sit down with Francisca to understand how her birth as a Black female child in colonial Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, and other life challenges have informed their work as a social justice activist, author, and mental fitness coach. Francisca's approach is intentional, deliberate, and well calculated. Her wisdom has the power to challenge your perspective and bring about transformative change in your life. Join us on this show to experience the wisdom of a mental fitness coach. Thank you so much for taking your time to come to my podcast to tell us about your journey as an immigrant, both a 9-to-5 and an entrepreneur in Canada.
Thank you, Gibson, for having me.
You're welcome. So let's just get started by you telling us your journey. Just tell us your story. Who are you? What happened? Why are you in Canada?
That's a long question. But anyway, I am Francisca. Now people call me Francesca Mandeya. Ndaiziwe is a name loaded with meaning. My mother gave it to me. I was born a girl child, number 3, in a succession of girls, and at a time when girls were not valued in our culture. I was also born in violent colonial Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, in 1970. And so when you ask me who I am, these identities of mine as a female and as an African have played a pivotal role in the woman that I am today. So being born into an unjust societal order where girls were not valued and Africans were not ranked as people, they were teetering at the bottom of the race ladder on their land. That has informed the social justice advocate, or other people would like to say activist, that I am today. The pain of living a life as a girl child, taking punches from boys in primary school, being abused by boys and bullied big time in high school, and having a troubled relationship as a married woman. All the pain that I have gone through and all the racism that I've gone through, I've experienced first by watching the violence against my own parents during the war, and coming to Canada and realizing that I'm Black for the first time, that I have a label. That pain has taught me to harness it and all the trauma that I suffered into gifts and opportunities. So why I came to Canada, if I may answer that, it was a cocktail of reasons, from social, political, economic strife, and me wanting to quit life, just to throw in the towel to say I didn't want to live anymore. So I was not fit mentally when I was offered the opportunity to come to Canada. There had been a lot of strife in my life where you constantly have to look at your back to see who is watching me. That was my life. When you constantly have to think, what do I bring on the table in terms of looking after the kids as a single mother? When you constantly get judged by society as a nobody, as a single mother. all those things weighed down on me and impacted my mental health. And when I was about to quit, my sister Tina extended her generosity and invited me to take a break from life and come to Canada. So I came here with 3 pieces of luggage. 3 pieces of luggage. 2 of them were my suitcases.
Okay.
One of them was my mbira. I love telling this story.
Okay.
And so here I am in the Canadian Arctic in Nunavut, and I've called it home for 10 years.
Interesting. So tell me more about the activist part of your life. You said what you went through actually informed you to be a social justice activist. When was the inflection point when you realized, I am actually now an activist and I'm pursuing this and I'm doing this? Was it gradual? Was it something dramatic? What happened? And when was that?
Yeah, so if I want to be dramatic, I will tell you that I started at 3 because my big brother, Dr. Kaka Mudambo, tells me that when I was 3 years old, I was talking to my elder sister who was 7. She's 4 years older than me. And I said to her, I'm a whole human being. I can stand up for myself. There must have been some exchange that made me feel like I am little, I am younger, but I had the wherewithal to actually stand up for myself. So again, I go back to how I was born, that I was already born in an unjust societal system. So I would like to think that activism or the quest for social justice is something that's tied to my birth and my circumstances. But consciously, I decided to find employment in a not-for-profit in 2002 when I was experiencing a lot of social strife and shame about my relationship as a woman. And I knew that the kind of life that I was living, a life of pain, a life of stress, a life of strife, where I was not valued and wanted, I just knew that as a human being, I deserved better. So I began to look for places where I could know my rights, because I knew that I needed to get out, but I didn't know how. And I've been listening to the radio that a human being has rights. So I realized I'm a whole human being with equal human rights and I deserve equal treatment. And I just had to find out how. So I left my job intending to escape my strife, and I found myself in this not-for-profit organization. So that's where I began to educate myself and get educated about rights and responsibilities. And so advocating came naturally because I already had the pain, I already had the experiences, and I'm like, oh, women shouldn't be treated like this. They shouldn't be subjected to abuse, to bullying, and even children have rights. So I really started getting involved in civic education, teaching people in communities about leadership, about advocating for basic necessities, which are their fundamental human rights.
Okay, interesting. And on the issue of you suffering abuse and being bullied at school, can you just give us some examples of the things that you experienced when you were in primary school, maybe, and then high school, and then if possible in your marriage, where you actually can give us an example of the type of abuse and bullying so that other people can know. And you can also add to say, is this something that if it happens to everybody, they quickly realize that they're being bullied or they're being abused, or it's something that they need to be informed that, you know what is happening in your life, you are being bullied or you are being abused.
Thank you for that question. So in primary school, was a young boy. He was my age. May his soul rest in peace because he's late. I would tell you that I would have loved to have a conversation with him as an adult to understand where he was getting his behavior and his attitude from, in a quest to just understand. But this young man gave me grief in primary school. I remember I was 9, and every day he would have something mean to say about me. I get favored by the teacher because I'm the daughter of a businessman. I'm not even smart, and girls are are not more brilliant than boys. So how
Okay.
come I was always in the top 3 and he was from number 4 going downwards?
Oh, okay.
So it was constant talking me down, putting me down, embarrassing me in front of my classmates. And one day he followed me and he attacked me from behind physically. And I hit back.
Okay.
I hit back and I hit him so hard because I was very mad and I was very angry and I was tired of the abuse.
Okay.
So the question that I have to parents, to boys, to men is, who teaches these young boys that a girl cannot be smarter than a boy? If she's smarter, you use violence to subdue her.
What about in your adult life, maybe in your marriage, something that you can mention? You said you feeling you were abused, or you were being abused actually. Is there something that you can mention along those lines that also then formed the work that you're doing now?
So I will respectfully respond to this question by beginning to say, when I was reflecting on what happened to me as a woman, I came to the revelation or to the realization that it wasn't about the father of my children, the abuse. Yes, he has some personal behaviors and attitudes and whatever happened between us to answer for or to. But for me, it was more the system, the culture. And I will give an example of how we got married. I got pregnant when I was a student. He was a student too. And we sat down and talked about what happened. And we didn't know how to deal with it. But of course, the adults came in and there was a force from my side to say, you're pregnant, you're a girl, you know the owner of the pregnancy, you go and stay there.
Okay.
Did they consult me to ask me if I wanted to be in a marriage? They did not. You have sinned, you have done the wrong thing. We correct it by sending you to the owner of the pregnancy. On the other end, same story. You did this is how you do it, right? Right. So there was a lot of force culturally from both families. And I did plead with my relatives to say, given the reception that I had received, I did not want to be in that family. And I say this with respect, it is true.
Yeah.
But I was told that I had no choice but to be there.
Okay.
And so the abuse begins with our culture. When girls sin and we tell them the family name has to be protected and they have to do the right thing. That right thing, it doesn't matter whether it's going to kill them with stress or whatever. What people are worried about is, have you protected the family name? Have you corrected your sin, your mistake? And so I want to emphasize to parents that when girls get pregnant, please don't punish them. Sit down with them and ask them how they want to be supported. Don't make it about you and your name, because tomorrow you might be looking at a coffin. You force them to go and be with people that don't want them. What kind of quality of life do you expect them to live in a family where they are not welcome, where you have sent them by force? So personally, as a mother, I have told my girls, you don't stay where you are not loved. You don't abuse yourself like that.
Okay, I get it. And you mentioned issues to do with your mental health. How did you get back to your good mental fitness when you came to Canada? What took you back, like, to normalize the way you should be operating like you're doing today?
So I didn't get my mental health back on track fully, or starting in Canada. It started when I was home. I realized that I had put myself in a situation as a woman where I made a decision with my heart when I should have been using my head more. So I paid for that decision I exposed my kids to a relationship that was not healthy for me or healthy for them. And I felt really stupid because I thought I was correcting the mistake that I'd done of being a single mother. And you know how we always feel like we are less than because we are not married. So I thought I was going the right way until it hit me and I got abandoned. And I felt like I wasn't lovable. I'm dark and ugly, confirming all the things that the boys had told me in secondary school, all the negative things that people said about me. It seemed true then. And I was acutely depressed. And even though people who were surrounding me, my siblings, my children, I didn't see that love. All I saw was the darkness.
Okay, so was that another relationship? What was it? Another relationship that you
made an attempt?
An attempt, okay.
It was an attempt.
You said you used your heart instead of using your mind, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay,
you should use both.
Okay,
you should never use one. So I wanted to answer your question around how I got my mental health back. So I was giving the context. So I was acutely depressed and I felt like my life was not worth living. And I had the ingredients ready, a bottle of codeine, some cough mixture right next to my bedside, and I was ready to take my life.
Okay.
The only thing that made me make a U-turn was my son, who was in the next bedroom. And I did a flash forward to say, what if he wakes up in the morning and finds me? What will my son see? What will my son see? And who will look after him? I'm a single mom. And from that, he was 14. That was 2014. So that's like switched something in my head and my heart. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. But I was still acutely depressed. So I had to explain to my son what was going on with me. And I checked myself into the counseling sessions with Connect. I had been a qualified counselor myself, but I had gone there.
Okay.
So this just goes to show that sometimes we come across as strong women and we have it all together, but we actually don't have it all together. And even though we may be educated, sometimes we fail to apply that education. That was me. So I realized that I needed help and I went for counseling. But after counseling, I then was playing mbira since I was 37, that's 2007, with my children. And so my girls were not there. Those are the ones that I played with most. They were in university in Namibia. And so there was that gap where the music was not helping me to balance myself. And so while I was with my son, one day I just walked a distance of 1 kilometer and I composed a song, Mbira Zangu. And that song is what really grounded me. I felt like I'm in control from inside. In my culture, surprisingly, that I wasn't taking that seriously is what really grounded me. And I felt so powerful. Ndipe mbira dzangu ndiridze, ndipe mbira dzangu rufaro ruwande, ndipe mbira dzangu ndiridze maronda apore, ndipe mbira dzangu misodzi iome pandinofara ndoridza mbira. You know, so it just strengthened me. And that was before Canada. So when I came to Canada, I realized I needed my mbira. And then I grew some more in terms of my mental health. I enrolled to be a coach, a transformational coach with Ericsson International. And I also enrolled to be a positive intelligence coach where we talk about dealing with life's challenges with a positive mindset as opposed to a negative mindset. And that has been strengthening me. And I am here today advocating, and I'll never go back to that place where I will say, I want to take my own life. I teach people using my story that it is possible to come from that rock bottom to being mentally fit and taking any challenge, any pain, any trauma, divorce, suicide ideation, parenting challenges, whatever, being sacked from a job, difficult relationships with in-laws, with in the marriage, any challenge, you can turn that into a gift and opportunity.
Great. So can you explain more on that you're doing now as a certified coach? You are a mental fitness coach and trainer now. You are also a positive intelligence coach. Can you explain that? What do you do, and what type of people do you save? And do you have programs? Yeah. So I want you to describe the person that, you know what, this is my avatar. This is the person that I'm saving. What type of a person are you serving with the qualification that you do have right now?
Okay. So for me, the kind of person that I'm looking for is the person that is experiencing difficulty. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and they're at a place where they are juggling many problems and they feel stressed, they feel exhausted, they feel like giving up on themselves, but they know that they are meant for more. They just don't know how to move from what we call being hijacked by their saboteurs to what we call being in their sage. What we mean by being hijacked in our saboteurs is that saboteurs destroy us. They harm us. Instead of prospering us, they make us regress. And these are things like our anger, frustration, worry, depression, all those negative feelings that we feel, those are the saboteurs. So they can come from any difficulty in relationship, from failing to perform at your peak, or from just general unhappiness. So as a coach, my job is to move people from that self-sabotage where you are feeling negatively and you might end up doing things that don't even reflect the person that you are, to a place where you are in your sage. Your sage being the positive feelings that you feel. And normally we talk about healthy relationships, inner peace and calm, and happiness and performance at your peak. So as a coach, I take people from saboteurs to sage, and they show up for themselves fully and completely and become the person that they want to become.
Okay.
So for instance, I want to give you an example. 2 HR executives under the mentally fit professional, we trained them, and as a result of the training, the first thing that happened is, as HR executives in their jobs, they began to perform better because they had tools to deal with relationships in their teams. So how to get the team to perform at their peak. And even if they are stressed, even if they are being asked to do the impossible, they will attack those problems with a positive mindset instead of panicking. What do we do? So they are calm and they execute with ease and flow. And you do that only when you are in your sage, when you've taken away the fear. So these executives managed to do that for their teams. And then coming to their own relationships, one of them, of course, I won't mention names, she was having a difficult relationship with her husband and with parenting as well. So she was not talking to her husband as they used to. After the course, the husband felt like there is some prank that the wife is pulling because she has become so good. And even herself, she surprised herself because she just found herself giving her husband more grace, being more in a sage, like looking for what is positive in her husband as for nitpicking what is wrong with this person. And so the energy in the home just changed from saboteur to sage. You know how people always say we want a home, not a house. We want peace. But for the most part, if you check how us even women talk in the home, what do we think about our husbands? What do we say about our husbands? What do we do to our husbands? Yet we say we want peace. So in this course, we bring consciousness to the thoughts that you think, the things that you say, and the actions that you do in your home. Are they reflective of the peace that you say you want as a wife? So after that revelation, there was happiness in the home. And with the kids, parenting with more ease, because most of the time in positive intelligence, we say we parent through our saboteurs. Those saboteurs are, you want a perfect child, but we all know perfection doesn't exist. You want a high achieving child with A pluses, right? We want, so it's the perfection, it's the hyper achiever, and it's the controller. We want to tell them what to do. I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be this. This music has no future. Sport has no future. That's us parents trying to manage our kids through those saboteurs.
Mhm.
But what we learn in the program is that when you parent from your sage,
Yeah.
you are not pushing them, but you are creating conditions where your child is happy,
Mhm. Mhm.
really truly happy from the
Interesting.
positive energy that you and the father and the people in the home create. So the kid goes to school happy and they perform. Anything they do, be it sports, academics, if they are in their stage, they will perform. So that is what the course does. Triple impact.
Interesting.
Personally, professionally, parentally,
Yeah.
they get results.
Interesting. Let me. So we are doing a lot of work, cross-functional in terms of home, work, everything. I think this course literally will work for all people who just want to be operating at high levels of productivity, right? Without retrogressing and just pulling themselves back using their action. So yeah, so I believe in that, and I believe in intentional living. I call that intentional living. You are deliberate about the decisions that you are making. So when you are saying something, you know exactly how it is going to make an impact in somebody's life or your life, and you make sure that the outcome is actually attached to what you're saying. You don't just speak anyhow, even in a relationship. But can you explain more on that one, especially because we understand this principle when we speak about work, when we speak about productivity as athletes. Oh, I have to follow this diet, I have to go to the gym this many times so that I can be more, have more endurance. And then at work, it's like, I have a calendar, I have to follow it, I have to do this, I have to follow up my clients, for example. People quickly understand that. But can you bring it back home and break it more about what you have said about, especially about relationships in marriage and parenting, especially on relationships like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, right? Because I think from my analysis of counseling people and talking to people, I think there is a level of selfishness that is found in many people when they are dealing with their spouses, right? Like people are focused about what happened to them. Oh, I was frustrated because he always does this to me, or she always says. Can you explain more about that, about being intentional in a relationship, especially and because you're a lady and you are breaking barriers in this area of social justice? I also want you to focus on how can you apply this to ladies, because my understanding at this time now is of course ladies were, as young children, young girls, they are being over taught and indoctrinated to become wives, to endure suffering. But I think they are also not taught to take responsibility and ownership, especially when it comes to what they say, right? What they say, like, do you know that words have got meaning? And I think that's where, can you explain more about that? And you can do both men, women, give examples. And I think a lot of people are going to benefit from what you're going to say.
Okay. First of all, I'm smiling because of your standpoint and your direct accusation that girls are not taught. I don't agree. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. So what I think is that when we raise kids as parents, we have a set of values that we instill in our children. And among those values, we teach love, we teach kindness, we teach respect. So I do think that we are taught these things. And the practice of it, as human beings, we are human beings, the practice of it, both from females and males, is what is a challenge. And coming to girls, I will agree. If you are a young girl who went through abuse like me and had to fight boys, had to fight boys in primary school, had to fight boys in secondary school, had to fight in a marriage, has to fight in the workplace, we have to interrogate, why do girls have to fight? Why do girls have those sharp mouths? Where did it begin? So I told you that the root cause is society treats us as less than. So you have the context. Patriarchy, a system that says boys are better, that gives that boy the audacity to hit me because he should be on top and I should be at the bottom. That is where you begin with the girl's anger and their sharpness and whatever you are accusing them of. So you better have the context. Where are we getting it from? But that doesn't mean that if those things, if we experience pain and trauma, we're going to project it to the next person, because we might be doing it to a boy who has also had that done to them. So are we solving the problem? So for me, if you are a girl that has gone through abuse, that has been hurt, that has been traumatized, it is your job to heal yourself so that you don't bleed on other people and justify that because I was beaten when I was young, because I was bullied, because I was abused, because then you are not becoming any better than those people that abused you. So heal that little girl. Do the inner work to find out the why. I had to dig out why are things like this. And without blame, figured out, as much as I want to blame the father of my children, the culture is actually the biggest problem. And so I take the problem away from the individual without absolving them of their own personal responsibility in the relationship. If they did things that hurt me, it's up to them to come and say, I am sorry, I said this to you. I said you were useless. I said your life is not worth living. That is something that somebody can come and own their part to repair the relationship or the pain. If they do not come, I still am able to function without that him having to ask for forgiveness from me, because it is my personal responsibility for me to create my own happiness. And I can choose to keep my hand on the stove and remember all the bad things that happened to me, or I can choose to forgive myself for putting myself in that position in the first place and take responsibility for my actions. How did I get there? I made a decision. And so I own my part and heal the past that I can, with or without the perpetrator. So that's what I would say to girls.
So, all right. So
and to boys, wait. I want to catch your mouth there, but I'm Romanian. So with boys, it's also about being conscious of your privilege. Just as we talk about white privilege, there's male privilege. Without you saying anything or doing anything, just being born a boy child, you know that boys don't do any chores at home. They get favored, they get more meat, more food in some families. And there's just this, boys get away with anything they do. Coming home late, if you do that and you're a girl, people say they're protecting you, but they're really making you feel like you're very vulnerable and you are less than, and you ought to be protected in a very toxic way. So we, as a mom, I feel like we need to teach our boys to treat girls as equals and not feel emasculated if girls are better. Because the talk that comes out of boys' mouths, like a girl is not smarter than me. Where is that coming from? Or a girl should serve me, they should cook for me, they should do for me. Where are they getting that from? And is that talk that builds a relationship or creates, does it build a relationship of equals, or it creates a superiority, which then becomes a power play between sexes or between genders in the relationship, instead of relating as equals who are giving each other their hearts and their best versions. So there is a problem when relationships are about power play, like who is the boss in the home. The moment you have that hierarchy and try to emphasize it, I see that's people's downfall. There's a lot of guys who are being guys. I don't get asked where I was. I don't get asked how much I earn. I'm the boss here. I'm the priest of the house. You are the priest of the house, but you are busy preaching a gospel of pain.
Okay.
So
the way, so the way where I was coming from is, let's say, for example, and then I'll make a follow-up question to you. Like, for example, men in general, especially if you're from Africa, men are not necessarily taught things to do with all relationships and things like that. So there's a huge void actually. And it's coming up now. People are saying, oh, no, let's train the boy child. Let's train the boy. Let's just train the boy child and things like that. But it's really something new, right? But in relationships also, the way I see it is, for example, men naturally, we don't like to speak a lot. but we act a lot. Like I can watch soccer and I'm really concentrating on someone who's about to score, and then my wife is speaking with me. And the way I react sometimes is like, just wait a little bit. I want to see what happens with that penalty kick, you see? But my wife is saying, no, but I'm speaking to you. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, so when I said that statement, that is something I was coming to an example like this, where I wanted you as a professional to balance it out. And I also wanted you then to come to balancing psychology versus biology. Are the women naturally created with an intrinsic ability to speak and the need to speak as compared to men? And do men, act in relationships, commit a lot of crimes in courts using their actions more than speaking? So that's why I wanted you to go to, like, how do we balance that? You see, how do we balance that?
I don't try to be an expert in biology because I'm not. But
Okay.
what I can tell you is when it comes to relationships, right? It's communication. And when it comes to communication, you communicate with your words, but you also communicate with your tone. You communicate with your body.
Okay.
And that communication is received, right, or rejected, or received whether positively or negatively. So when it comes to the husband that's watching TV and would just want to see the penalty kick out or whatever, or shoot out, and the wife is talking, I think for me, what is happening there is there needs to be a talk about what makes somebody happy and how important soccer is to a person, and what the timing is to talk about things that are important that you need your men to listen to you. So if I love my husband, he loves rugby. If he's watching rugby, I'm not going to bring an issue that is important, that I need his full presence while he's watching rugby.
Okay.
Because I want him to enjoy the sport that he loves and be happy in the home. And I don't want to use his love for rugby as something that I can make him feel guilty, shame him about, and blame him about. Because the contract is, we are housemates. I say to my housemate, my playmate, my soulmate, and I want to mean it. We coexist together. So I want to be mindful of what his hobbies are and respect him, because that's what makes him happy. And like now I'm having this interview. He's away from the space that we share together because he respects what I do. So I give personal examples to try and explain how I've learned to do things, that life is not just about me, what I want and when I want it, but it's about, do I love this guy? Can I let him be happy? And if I have something to speak to him, am I speaking without judgment? Am I looking for what is wrong in him? Am I always looking for faults and trapping him so that I confirm that he's not a good man? Or I am looking for the goodness in him, and I'm present when he speaks. So one thing that I have observed, and which is not true for all men, is that emotional availability can be a challenge to some. Just being available emotionally, because women want to talk and express themselves, and they want to feel seen, heard, and valued. And you can't fake it. The presence is presence. It's felt more than being talked about. So if I speak to my son from a woman's perspective, I tell him, son, when you're talking to a woman, these are the things you must do. Be present. Just forget about your video games, forget about your soccer for now, forget about whatever. And if you decide you want to talk, then be present and be emotionally available. So that you see, the moment you start with those generalized statements, you're not talking about her, you're talking about other women. Can we zero in on this woman and actually listen to what she wants and not dismiss her as vakadzi?
And not general.
She's not vakadzi, she's her. She has a name.
Yeah.
She has a name and she wants to be seen, heard, and valued. And if you do your job properly, then she won't be coming to you every now and then to interrupt you when you're doing your thing.
Yeah, so it has to do with communication. I think that's the piece of your explanation.
Yes,
okay, interesting.
That's what I think. I think I wouldn't say all couples differ, but without the communication being right, then it will be difficult, because it's like, do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you value me? As much as we think it's a woman thing, you men also want it, but sometimes you're not good at expressing it.
All right, so let's move on to the books that you wrote. The first book that you wrote, or one of the books, Mother Behold Thy Son, does it have a connection with this that you're just explaining, or and do you have a copy of it so that people can just see it if it is nearby? Yeah, that one. Yes. I think it's also on Amazon, right? I think I'll put the link.
Yeah, it's on Amazon, and people can also buy it straight off me, which is better.
Okay.
they can contact me and I can mail it to them.
Okay, all right. So can you explain a little bit about that book? Does it have a link with what you're just explaining right now, and does it have a connection to your consulting job where you help people?
Yes, and yes. It has a link to what I was talking about, because Mother Behold Thy Son, you can see the back cover is actually me and my son.
Yeah.
I have only one biological son.
Okay.
So when I was raising my children as a single mom, I was not so scared for my girls, because then I was becoming a strong woman and learning about rights and learning about leadership. So whatever lessons I learned, I came back home and taught all three of my children. That's when I made music with them, like Takayenzana, we are equal. And I was challenged. What do I mean when I'm raising boys and girls and singing Kuti Takayenzana? What does that actually mean? How do I operationalize equality in my home and make these girls feel like they're not less than, which is the song of my life? And I was correcting that script. And also with my son, that he was a son being raised in a household full of females. What kind of men would this boy become in this environment? And with my experiences as a girl, as a woman, and as a married woman, what would it mean teaching a boy to become a man? So I was scared for my son, because the templates that I saw of masculinity from my girlhood to my womanhood were a bit scary. It was that boy that hit girls. So I'm like, is my son going to do that? No, I need to tell this story because I don't want my son to be like that boy and make girls feel the way I felt. So as I raised them, Takayenzana was a song that we sang, and each one had a verse to emphasize the message that I really want my boy to treat girls as equal human beings. They are not the same. Equality and sameness for me is not the same. Boys and girls are different, granted. But it's about offering equal opportunities to them so that they maximize their potential. So I was afraid, even as a young man, how is he going to be dating and talking to girls and treating girls? Is he gonna date a girl and discard her and go on to the next conquest? Would I want that as a mother, for my son to be known to treat girls like objects and conquests? I didn't want that. And so I was teaching him to really honor women and girls, so that for me, if he wants to respect me, that's how he would respect me, by making sure that he treats girls and women as equals, and for his own happiness. Because from my experience with the father of my children, I realized that template of masculinity that society sort of prescribes for every man, chigai, chekuti, a guy can date 2 women and not have any consequences. A guy can get away with anything. A guy can go and say anything in the home and treat women anyhow and get away with it because they are the boss. It's a very dangerous template for masculinity. Because in the end, when men are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that the consequences of that masculinity that's unhealthy begin to hit them. You see, a lot of them are unhappy and their egos ruled them. They were in homes, they did things to women, they never said sorry because men don't say sorry. That's what they are taught. They don't cry, they don't express feelings, they don't apologize. Yeah, real men don't. And the code that men don't, they don't actually, what do they do? There's this philosophy that they discuss, but some never really talk about constructive things about women. They're always talking about women in a very disrespectful way. So I wanted to behold my son become a man who treats women and girls with respect, a man of confidence, a man of integrity, a man who has a chance of being a good leader and being a happy husband, a man who would be available emotionally, even at labor, and raise his own children so he would know the joy of being a parent if he chose to be one. Okay. And lately I'm adding that I want my son to know that should he become a father, what does it take for a woman to carry a child in their womb and for the man to give that child his name when he has done not as much? How should my son treat such a woman who gives him a child, who houses a whole human being in her body? For me, it's with humility and with unconditional love for that woman, and not take it for granted. It's my child. They get my surname. How did we get there? Can we respect the human beings that carry human beings in their bodies because it's a choice that we have now?
Okay.
So great. I want my son to be that man who respects, so that the world becomes more peaceful and marriages are happier when our men are actually in that position where they are supportive and appreciative of the role that women play in their lives.
Yeah.
And
okay. So as someone who wrote a book like that one, and I want you to, what is the description of masculinity according to you and your perception? Masculinity without toxic masculinity. Like, just so that people can learn something from you.
So what I did with masculinity is I have a chapter where I ask, chapter 10, what is masculinity really? And I'm not an expert because I'm not a man, but I realized that I wanted my son to recognize what is toxic and to reject it.
Okay.
And so for me, what is toxic is this idea that guys can boast about having 200 girlfriends, having an STI, and that kind of like masculinity that's unhealthy. And I'd like to revise, because of positive intelligence, I no longer want to say toxic masculinity. I'd rather say unhealthy masculinity, because I'm learning to reframe things. Yeah. So I want my son to recognize, and other sons by extension. Remember, in our culture, if I say my son, I even mean someone that I have not given birth to. So when I say my son, I'm extending it to other sons from other mothers. So that vulnerability is men's new strength. There was an engineer in Zimbabwe who went viral, who went to apologize to his wife. He was now with a second wife, but he left his first wife, because she wanted to be a manager. And he did not want her to advance her career. She was a good wife, good mother, 3 children, girls only. And this man was an engineer, he had money, so he gave the wife an ultimatum that if you go ahead and become a bank manager, I am leaving you. And he left her, not because of anything else, but because she wanted to advance her career. And so he left and married another woman. But this woman was so good, she kept a good relationship with this man. And they co-parented very positively, even with the other wife. And this first wife became sick and she died. So this man realized what a loss in that woman. And he confessed that because of his ego, he found himself rejecting a good woman. What a heart, he said. So this is what I was talking about, that you can go on as men and brag about, I'm the man, I make the decisions, I do this, but much later in your life, that unhealthy masculinity will hit you and it will be regret. This was the story of this man. What I admire about him is that for me, he was modeling now a healthy masculinity where it is okay to say, I am sorry. I didn't know better. My ego got the better of me. So that's how I tackled masculinity in the book. And there are 12 tips, 10 ways to jettison toxic masculinity. Like I said, I now want to say unhealthy masculinity.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting and very informative. So this book, can get it on Amazon. We can also get it directly to you. I think we'll put the link down. Let's go to the second book that you wrote about racism, and racial equality, right? Seeking racial equality, right? What made you, write that book when you are now in Canada, and you said when you came to Canada, you never knew that you were Black, right? Like you have a label called Black, right? So what was the journey like for you to come to a place where you say, I have to write a book about?
Okay, so here is the book.
Yeah, that one.
I'm actually wearing the same dress that I wore in that kind of in the picture there on the book. So yeah, I'll be honest that I had always wanted to write because I realized that the war in Zimbabwe impacted me as a child. And some of my anger issues and my hypervigilance came from that. So while I was in Zimbabwe, I'd written like a 70,000 word script of the whole story of what happened to me. I didn't know how to express myself in a way that would be acceptable for a novel. So when I came here in Canada, I already had that trauma and pain from my childhood. And sometimes we don't know until we start engaging with the issues, right?
Yes.
So when I came here, the first thing that happened was Black History Month, February 2015. I came here December 2014. I'm like, interesting. Black History Month. We don't have this in Zimbabwe. What is it all about? So I said, bring mbira, come and play. And so there we were showcasing our culture and everything. It was fun. And then the word Black was said so many times. It's a whole month, Black, Chakuti, Black. I'm like, this is new. We didn't do this at home. It's like most of the people look like me. So the first year it was nice. I liked being associated with it and the culture, sharing the culture, being a proud Zimbabwean. And then the next year it's again February, Black History Month, Black History Month. And I'm like, there's something about this that's not sitting right with me, because then it came with a treatment as well, that even 8-year-olds can call you nigger. That's not something that happened back home. And so because I'd always wanted to write, it was there, but it became more urgent as I noticed that I'm now in the minority, and there's a certain way that people that look like me are treated in this country that I didn't see back home. And so, like the desire to heal is always in all of us. It's not just in some of us. And how we express that need for healing is different. For me, writing is a real therapeutic way of trying to heal the wounds that I have. So I began to get serious about writing when I was experiencing all these things. I'm like, okay, so where do I begin? I do know that I have questions with the war and how it happened. And people here in Nunavut speak very boldly about the colonizer. So when we're in Zimbabwe, the moment you mention colonizer, people look at you and like, get over it, And here it was like, no, they want to confront it. They are attributing their present conditions, economic, political, social problems to colonization that it has a big part in the way their lives are right now. And so I realized it is true for me too. But back home, this conversation, when you say it, people kind of roll their eyes at you like, what do you mean? Get over it. It's over. And so I was like, this is a good place to actually reflect. And then I found out, colonization is part of the reason why we are still treated, why we are treated, and why there's anti-Black racism. So I began to build the blocks for sharing my story with all these experiences. And it's nice to move away from an area where you're always stressed and you're worried about putting food on the table, such that you don't have time to pause and reflect. So coming here gave me that pause, the power of pause, and then to question all the things that I had been questioning, like religion. How is Christianity linked to racism? How did these people justify treating us like this? So that's how I got to get the courage to really reflect and find out an outlet for my pain and trauma. And in 2022 January, I finally burst searching for racial equality. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, you did. You did a good job. Actually, you did a very good job. And it's interesting. I mean, to see what you have done, the journey that you have walked, and all the things that you have actually done in this short space of your life. It's very incredible. You know, it's not easy to write a book, especially about racial equality, and then write another one again. About the social injustice towards women and things like that. How do you relate to this? I know this is coming out from the way you grew up. You know, there was a war in Zimbabwe. There was a lot of bullying when you were at school and abuses in your life, and then you're now an activist, and then you're writing these books. And now you went through some mental challenges, and then some coaching, and then you actually and now you're a certified mental fitness coach and a positive intelligence coach. So now this is a business that we have here. It's actually a business that is coming out of all these things that have happened in your life. How difficult is it, or how easy is it for you to monetize what you are doing? You know, to say, yes, I'm doing this to actually change the world, but I'm monetizing what I'm doing. It's also a business at the same time. And I know you're also keeping a 9-to-5 job, right? Which means you're doing this part.
Yes.
I need to explain that. Was it easy for you to say, okay, I'm going to write books and sell them, and I'm going to do this, and then I'll become a coach, and then I'll charge people money? Can you explain that, anxiety, the sense of, I am doing this for a cause, but it's a business I have to sell, people have to pay me, can you explain that a little bit?
Thank you for that question. I like it very much, because then it gets me to explain the next book that I'm writing, which is finding, I think I'm still finalizing the topic, but it's got to do with coming from pain to prosperity. I do think that if I explain that, it will answer the question along the way. Okay. So in life, we are going to experience pain, whether it be from divorce, whether it be physical pain, from relationships, from failures, from being fired from jobs, physical pain from chronic diseases. It really doesn't matter. Pain is inevitable. And what matters is what you are going to do with that pain, because it's going to be there. Most of the time, society does not prepare us to deal with pain, because it teaches us to pray away the pain. And yet sometimes it's there. Even when you pray, it doesn't go away. So what I've been learning in positive intelligence is that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
Okay.
How you get to that mindset, how do you dance with pain such that it does not keep you in saboteurs? You don't feel sorry for yourself. So it's a question of mindset. In mindset, we capture it as what we call the sage perspective. The sage perspective says that there is always a gift and opportunity in any circumstance. So when it comes to pain, if you're experiencing it, no matter where it's coming from, you can ask yourself, what is the gift from pain? What is the opportunity? When you do that, now you are able to move from the rock bottom, from your hand being on the stove, to a mindset where you are riding on that pain and beginning to create gifts. And when you do that, you can now say you are in your power. So that's the next P. So from pain, perspective, then power. Because when you change it to say this is pain, but I'm making it a gift, you've changed your perspective. Now you're in your power. When you are in your power, we can safely say that you're walking on purpose. Yeah. And when you walk on purpose, it means you're doing the things that you are meant to do as a human being. And most of the cases, you use what has happened to you to inform your purpose. So in my case, I created these two gifts, these two books. I birthed them out of my pain as a woman and as an African woman. And so I sell them, right? So that's my purpose. But my purpose is generating profit. And I created programs. I only shared about the mentally fit professional, but there's the mentally fit professional, mentally fit mama. We focus on mothers. Mentally fit father, we focus on fathers. And we use these gifts in teaching them the parts that are relevant, especially about identity. We take from these books, we teach them in the coaching programs. Then there's the Sage Kid, which is a mental fitness program for kids. All these gifts are coming from what happened to me. I'm not thinking about, oh, I want to start a project. What can I think of? They are in me. They are my pain, but they've now become my gifts. And I sell them. And when I sell them, it's not like, oh, I'm selling them, I want to make money. Yes, money is part of the game, but I am sharing authentically and vulnerably my story. Because I know that someone needs it. Someone who may be a few steps away from where I am needs it. But while walking on purpose like that, I'm now beginning to generate profit. Because for some people, it's working. When I was delayed in this meeting, I was talking to a lady who says, Francesca, whenever I want to do something that is negative, I go and read your posts. We need someone in the African community who can calm people down. Now, if I can calm a person down by my Facebook post, what about my coaching program? So I'm grateful to God because these gifts are really blessing people. And in the same vein, they are creating profit. And I hope that as they continue to create profit for me, while I juggle between my 9 to 5 and my coaching business, I want to call it a business now because I'm organizing it as such, that it will take me not only to profit, but to prosperity. And prosperity for me is financial freedom. I want to be able to be free to earn from my gifts that God gave me, from my pain, and bless the world while I'm blessing myself with the freedom to be able to afford the things that I couldn't afford when I was that woman who was at rock bottom. For now, I am juggling between my 9 to 5 and my business because I'm not yet there where I can let go of my 9 to 5, but I'm working intentionally towards that.
And I understand you've got a master's in developmental studies, just to wrap that one up too. Now you're paying all these things that you're doing, they are literally bound and encapsulated in your experiences as a Black female mother who's from Zimbabwe, now in Canada. Now you've got courses, programs, and you've written books. Where does your education come into play? Yeah, like your master's degree, your first degree, where does it come into play? Does it have a piece, or it was just something that took you to a place where you were supposed to be?
I'd like to believe that my education played a function of making me literate. And what I have been learning through studying in my adulthood is that education can either liberate you or domesticate you. And when I look back, the kind of education that we received which was the British kind of education, was designed to benefit them. It did benefit us in that we can speak English, we can analyze certain things within the framework of what they taught us. But what I really love now is that when you kind of train the human mind to think critically, even though you may intend to oppress people, there have been ways for us to find alternative sources of information and people, teachers that have taught us to think outside the education system that we were exposed to. So I've been very lucky to learn in an institution called Training for Transformation in South Africa. They exposed me to people like Paulo Freire, pedagogy of the oppressed. So I was learning a curriculum designed for people that are oppressed to open their mind so that they move from a magical level of consciousness, that consciousness that incapacitates us and makes us stay where we attribute everything to supernatural powers. And then if we do that, then we don't engage in any meaningful action. So I was lucky that I was in an institution which explained that you can be at the magical level and just say God made Africa poor and therefore you remain poor and you are happy. Or you can begin to understand, why is Africa poor? What are the social, political, and economic conditions and contradictions that have led us to this situation as Africans, as women, as Africans in the diaspora? What are the root causes? What are the systems at play? And so when you're able to do that, you are a little bit open, you are at the naive level. At the critical level of consciousness, you are now saying, okay, I know the systems, I know the structures, I know there's systemic racism, I know there's intersectional analysis that can help us understand better how our identities intersect to give us either privilege or underprivilege. And after that, I know exactly what to do to get myself out of that mindset, out of that poverty, out of that ignorance. So I have been lucky in that, even as a development student, Masters of Development Studies student, we had these conversations, how Europe underdeveloped Africa, and the gender aspect, the environment aspect. So I got exposed through all these types of qualifications that I acquired. But I'm most excited about pedagogy of the oppressed and how we must constantly challenge knowledge as it is presented to us as Africans, and not be content with what we see in the textbooks, because there's a lot of history that is missing about ourselves and about other indigenous populations.
Great. Do you think now you're at a level of, you're a critical thinker, so to say, and you're writing books, you're trying to inform other people about a lot of these issues. Do you think if we roll back the time, right, and take girls of which were born at the same time with you, especially in the rural Zimbabwe or rural Africa, do you think they would have stood a chance of becoming a person like you if they were not going to follow the education system which was currently presented to them at that point in time? Do you think they would stand a chance to become a person like you today? So my question is, do you think if we're going to eliminate education in your life, like this structured education, primary school, secondary school degree, were you going to be an informed person like you are today if we're going to say, let's remove this education system? Or as much as the education system was actually, domesticating you, it also gave you a platform to come to a place where you can now be liberated. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. Yes, education, like, we didn't have a choice in the curriculum, but like you're saying, it did give us a launching pad. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Somewhere to begin. And then with more openings and more opportunities, then we become more curious. And I think it's in all of us. Remember how our fathers, maybe people that are our fathers' ages in their 80s, 90s, they were educated to serve the system.
Yeah.
But as they were doing so, naturally, because humans are curious, they could tell that, okay, we are being taught this, but actually we can liberate ourselves. And hence the liberation movement was birthed.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty about education, that people might think that, okay, let's educate them and teach them just a little, But as you do so, because the human mind is so complex and people are intelligent, they do find ways of trying to liberate themselves. One of the things that I learned in systems theory, when I was doing systemic family counseling with Connect, was that every human being seeks to achieve their optimum. So every system is designed to operate at their optimum. So I don't know how we do it as human beings, but it's in all of us that as we are in this world, we are designed to be systems that are born, and then at the end of our life, it's wired in us that we must perform at our best. So no, I'm surprised that rather I'm not surprised that even with the domestication, the people find ways of getting out of it and looking for the freedom that they want.
Great. I love that. I love your perspective on the way you explained how it became a launching pad, because I also find people who literally threw the baby and the napkin in the sink and say this was not even necessary. But I'm like, how are you going to move from rural Zimbabwe to a place where you can now have an opportunity to learn all these other things without being educated how to read, right? And even to count, which is very difficult. So I love that. Now let's go to your soulmate, the other soulmate of yours. Okay, but before we finalize that, I want to talk a little bit about your husband. And I know I was researching a lot about you, and I saw in one of the interviews, I think you got married, like you were celebrating the time you got married. Take me through that journey. Like now you have gone through these abuses. You're now, this kind of a person who is writing books about, or thinking about writing books about this unhealthy masculinity and things like that. How did you come to a place to say, I can actually be married again and be happily married? How did it happen? Like, can you take us through that place? Because I think, you know what? There are a lot of people above the age of 40, 45, who actually are saying, I'll never be married, or I don't care about it. And I'm not saying they should wish to be married. That's not what I'm saying. But I think when you explain your story, a lot of people just learn other things, even from the things that you will not say as you take us through your journey of being married again at that age.
I think I was laughing because one of my friends from the 90s was telling me when she came to my wedding in Cape Town last year in October that I came to witness the miracle come true. Because when I was in my 20s, I said to myself, I'm going to have a wedding and it's going to be beautiful. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. Because I wanted it for me, for me to feel what it's like to be loved genuinely and to get into a commitment with someone who's equally invested in the relationship. I say that because then I was not having it, but I declared. And so it took how many years? Over 30 years for that to come to fruition. And so as a woman who has this journey of pain from relationships and attempting to correct what society said was wrong, I think in a way, in before I got to marriage, it was a question of feeling like I'm not enough. I need to be married. But as I grew in my personal development and analyzing how did I get into the first relationship in the first place? What was my role in it? Acknowledging my role, owning it, and transforming the bad relationship that was between me and the father of my children. For me, that was the beginning of my healing, the male and the female relationship. And knowing that I was going to co-grandparent, and I didn't want to co-grandparent, I didn't want it to be a toxic relationship. I wanted to free my children and my grandchildren from the toxicity of our own relationship. So we had a talk about that. So I'm moving towards how did I end up deciding that I want to get married? You have to heal the past first before you think of getting into another relationship. So I was doing that work and I was already dating my husband now And I realized, no, there's actually work that I still need to do to clear the ground, so that if I'm going to present myself as a wife, I'm not going to be a wife that's bitter about her past. I'm not going to be a wife that's going to put what happened to me into the next relationship. And I'll tell you, it wasn't linear. There was a time that I felt that I was acting out in my relationship, and it had nothing to do with what my husband had done. But I had the awareness that I need to heal and present myself as a healed woman, as a woman who's ready to be a wife to this man, because he was not there when all those things were happening. So to the person, to the woman who has been told that you are not worthy, you can't get a man, you are not wife material, you are an M1, M2, or M3. I want to tell them that if you really want a relationship where you will get married and be with somebody, first work on you. Work on loving you fully and completely. No matter what people say, know that you are worthy of unconditional love. You don't have to perform anything. You don't have to look beautiful. You don't have to be light-skinned. People talk a lot about being a yellow bone and therefore being white material or having these kind of features. No, don't listen to that. There is your person that God has prepared for you. If you are meant for marriage, they are there. Don't listen to the noise about society telling you that you are not enough. So it's a lot of work around who you are and accepting who you are, loving you unconditionally, leading you. If you have a vision, my vision board is somewhere down there. Put it on a vision and articulate what you want. I want to get married. I put the pictures of my wedding before I knew who it was going to be with, especially when I came to Canada. I put it on a vision board. God, I want this one day. I put a picture of a house. I put a picture of a house with money, because I ended up living most of my life without money. And I said, God, I want money. I put the life coach at the top there. I said, God, I'm not yet a coach. It's expensive to pay for Ericsson International, but I want to be a coach. Author, I put everything there. This is who I want to be. I know my personality. At my best, this is what I want to be. That was in 2017. Now we are in 2024. Most of those things on the vision board, I have ticked. I'm now a life coach. I'm now an author. I am now married. I'm working towards my projects that are on that vision board. And so we have to be prepared to do the inner work. And the inner work means we tell ourselves the truth. If our mouth was sharp in the home, let us make it right. Rinse and repeat positivity from here. If our thoughts about our men were not good thoughts, let us think positive thoughts. What you put in the house, get out.
Sorry to interject you, but while you're on that point, how do you deal with, I'll say, I mean, in counseling people, sometimes you ask a question and say, but that's how I feel, and this is how I wanted to let it out, right? Like, I wanted to say it so that it can get out of my chest, it can get out of my mind. How do you deal with people, or you as a positive intelligence coach, and also as a mental fitness coach? What do you tell people when people say that? Like right now, you're saying, if my mouth was not good, let me make it nice. How will you deal with that?
Yes, you are responsible for creating a positive environment in your home. If you want peace, you give out peace. If you want love, you give love. So your words land on people's hearts. So you choose which words you want to create the impact that you want. So if you want to let things out of your chest, you let it in such a way that you don't blame, you don't guilt trip or shame the other person. They have more opportunity or ability to receive what you're saying when you're not blaming. I'll give an example. Stanwa, I feel that if you did this to me, it would make me happier. than you did this, and therefore I feel like this, and so I'm going to express myself. It is not nice, you come here and you do this. They will just look at you.
Okay.
Sometimes let's have time to pause and be quiet. And then when we open our mouths, let's choose the words that's gonna bring the positivity, the peace, the love that we say we are.
Yeah, but I want to go to another skill that you have. Now you're playing mbira and you're in Canada. How are you? Briefly, you said mbira helped you a lot. It's a friend, And I want to ask, how are you monetizing mbira in Canada?
Yeah, I will speak of my recent engagement where I was asked as an elder, which is interesting because I'm only 54, and I think I'm a senior. I'm not yet an elder, but I take it because that's what they said it. So they were looking for an African elder who would do like land acknowledgement. Here we do land acknowledgements, where people say we work in the land of, and say who the original owners of the land are. So because it was Black History Month, they wanted an African twist to it. So someone said, I know someone who plays mbira. So my name was mentioned in places where opportunities arose. And as a result, I played my mbira and recorded a speech. It was not an hour. I will not disclose how much, but it's a handsome amount of money that I got from mbira. I opened Bob Marley One Love movie because of the connections between Zimbabwe and Jamaica. I was asked to be the opening act when One Love was premiered here in the city of Bikalu in Nunavut. And I was supposed to collect my check from that meeting. I'm still going to collect it, so that's money. I have played at local festivals, showcasing my talent. So every time they ask me to participate in the local festival, which is mainly centered on the local people and their culture, but they get to recognize diversity. And so mbira is taking me places. Recently in my master's certificate program graduation last week, my lecturer, the owner of the program from Schulich University, York University, Schulich Business School, York University, asked me to play at the next graduation because randomly he saw my instrument and asked what it was. I said, rather than asking me explaining, let me play it for you. I played it. I'm now monetizing from it. So
Great.
What happened is I did ask, where can I showcase my talent? And as a result of exposing myself, people know me whenever they are looking for something African, some cultural aspects to their programs. I get invitations to play. And they do pay way more than I used to get at home. And I'm very grateful. So it's all about, one, respecting the culture and really enjoying doing it, and then the opportunities coming because people can see how you move in the culture, how you talk about the culture, how they connect with the culture. They find themselves, even though it's my culture, they are finding themselves in the songs and in the healing aspect of mbira. So you
became part of the community. You showcased your talent, and also using the connections that you already do have, and having them to know who you are. Now you were able to monetize your talents using mbira. How old were you when you started learning how to play mbira? How old were you?
I was 37, and I never meant to play. I just had bought mbira to display in my home because I used to love Choniso so much, and we are still at situation. I'm like, I like that. But I didn't see myself playing. But it was by some accident that the kids picked it up and they loved it and they started playing. And then I also started playing around with them, nyunga. And because of something that happened in the community, my daughter started playing a tune, and I started storytelling about a woman who gave birth in a hospital and there was no water. And that was the birth of our first song. And since then, we recorded an album with the kids, and it has played a pivotal role even in my parenting. When I could not say any words, Mbira was there to deal with the emotions in my home with the children. So it has become something that is way more than I thought when I picked it up just for display. And now I even play solo on my own.
Great. Are you able to play, let's say, just for 1 minute for us, the Mbira? Maybe you can play one of your songs so that people can hear that you truly do play Mbira.
Okay, so normally I play Moroi.
Moroi, makadini salivonani, linjani, dimacheroni, makwachini, muriwa lihere, moriwa lihere, bonjour, hello, can we be, bonjour.
Great. Thank you so much. Where do you see your business going? Coming from now going forward, what's the plan with this business, with your coaching business, with everything that you're doing?
Well, in the next 5 years, I see that as the work that I will be doing. When I am 59, probably I want to retire early, and I want to be able to offer these programs in retreats, in boot camps, travel the world, and be able to share my story. Already after this meeting, I'm going to do a recording for a university that I am going to teach from searching for racial equality, how religion is used to opiate Africans. So already there's been a door that's opened for me to get to universities and do lectures and take questions and answers on my stories regarding racism and gender. So
Great.
I hope that more doors open and more speaking engagements open, and I create more impact.
Things. What in a nutshell, what advice do you have for somebody who is moving from Africa to Canada? What will you tell that person before he actually boards the plane to come to Canada? Any words of wisdom? What will you tell that person if you're given just a few moments to tell you or him something?
There are plenty of opportunities. Come here with an open mind. Be teachable, be coachable, be prepared for change, and embrace it in a positive way. Whatever challenge you face, take it as a gift and create opportunities from it. Never be a victim. Always be a victor.
Right.
And lift your hand up if you need help. Mental health is a real issue that we need to take seriously as African people. Let's normalize going to therapy. Let's normalize personal development, because we are meant to do great things. And Canada is a great place for you to grow.
And what about to the Black community, especially those who are into entrepreneurship, creative entrepreneurship, like yourself, right? What you're doing is not a normal business in thoughts, right? You're not running a retail shop. You're not selling clothes. This is something to do with from pain to perspective, and then to profits, as you were telling us. Something that is very creative here. What is your words? What are your words of advice to the Black community in America and in Canada?
I would say that I think creativity is second nature to us. When we sit down and take inventory of the gifts that we have, one of them is going to be something that can be monetized. Be in your gift, be innovative, and believe in yourself. Surround yourself with people that are doing better than you. Do not hesitate to invest in personal development first before you even think about getting big time into big business. Know who you are. Know how to love yourself unconditionally, and know how to lead yourself, have a vision, and also learn to be mentally fit. Because from there, whatever challenge you may face as an entrepreneur, you're going to fail. But how do you take those failures so that you use them for the next success?
Great.
instead of giving up.
What are your social media handles? And where exactly? Right now, someone will be saying, how can I get in touch with Francisca? How do they do that?
Okay, there's a Coach Francisca Mandeya page on Facebook. There's Francisca Mandeya, my personal page. There's Instagram. Yeah, those are the main social media handles. And of course, LinkedIn. They can also really text me on WhatsApp, 1-867-222-0700. I still have room to be talking to people as individuals, but I do find that the numbers are increasing. So maybe in the next few months, I may not be able to talk to people directly, but for now, people can actually talk to me directly. I've been coaching people for free who don't have the money, who reach out to me and they have a story. I'm like, this one I'm not going to let her sink. And I do spare time for people like that. But as I work towards my ideal clients, getting more of them, then I'll be doing less of that.
Thank you so much for that information. Is there something else that I didn't ask you that maybe you just want to let out, out to the people?
I think you've said a lot, and I've said a lot as well. I'm just grateful that we get this opportunity as Zimbabweans, Africans in the diaspora, to connect across countries and to share our experiences. And I want to thank you for your platform. And I guess for me, what comes to mind is how we must go back to our values of Ubuntu. And how I understand Ubuntu is human life comes first before profit. As much as I love becoming a business person and entrepreneurship, what I have been strong on as an African is that I must never forget who I am, and that human life comes first before money. I like money and I'm going to make money. I know because I'm doing the work. But for me, human beings will always come first. Our unity, our collective power is better than the power of one person making money on their own. So as a community, let us come together, refer business to each other, do it the way the Italians do it the way the Somalians do. Zimbabweans are still to learn that lesson from my experience.
Thank you so much, Francisca, for your time. This has been a great episode, up, across, down, in the water, on the mountain. Everything was laid out today, and I really appreciate your energy and your enthusiasm to what you do, and I hope a lot of people will learn from this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gibson, for having me. All the best in your endeavors.